Howdy, howdy, Sudova here, and welcome to a quick video where we're going to look at what I would love to see changed for the Dowie during the next update with the Skaven and Lizardmen DLC on the way. Now, every time there's an update, there's always little tweaks to every single faction. If we're to believe the CA information that's out, this is an extremely big update. I would guess what they mean by big is there's a lot more actual campaign updates rather than stat tweaks for multiplayer, but there might be. We'll see. I really want to go over some of the things where I think we're going to see some changes to the Dowie and where I hope we'll see some changes. Generally, I wouldn't expect too giant of changes, but you never know. You might see some. And there are a few key places which I've talked about many times, and some new ones which I haven't talked about much. And we're going to get that started with the lords for the Dowie. First of all, the fact that Lord Croak is actually going to be a legendary hero means that someday Gotrek is going to be right here. And there maybe Joseph Bugman ends up here as opposed to a legendary lord, a legendary hero. This is actually where Grombrindle should be. Should be a legendary hero, I think, as opposed to a legendary lord. But anyways, I will get to some of the changes. We're going to start with the lords. And, really the most competitive lord is the Rune Lord. The Rune Lord got a 50 gold increase. Now, the Rune Lord's kit is great, with the exception of this 33% damage resistance. Gatekeeper's Belt is still, it's a very poor ability. I'd be surprised if anyone's ever used it, on purpose, in something competitive. It's just pretty weak because the hit points are so small for this guy. It helps when you put him on his mount. His hit points go up by what, 900. But still, it's not going to get you there. Anyways, I would expect to see another increase to the price of the Rune Lord, or some significant decreases to the prices of other lords. Now, Belegar Ironhammer is actually really close to about. Feels really good. I've used him in a few builds at 1100. Now, when I say that, I got to put a caveat with it. Is foot lords are generally quite poor, and non-caster lords are generally quite poor. That defines, 5 out of the 6 lords for the Dowie. Foot lords, non-caster, and they're only going to get weaker as the game continues on. And you look at this DLC that's coming with with Sotek, who is going to be a caster lord, and Ikit Claw, which is a caster lord. Not only are they all caster lords, both of them have all the mount options, even if they're not necessarily lore friendly. And this is really sort of the way that it's going. So this power creep is going to affect the dwarf lords the most. So interestingly enough, even though the Rune Lord got more expensive, and Belegar got cheaper, and Angrim didn't get cheaper, but Grombrindle and Thorgrim got cheaper. The Rune Lord got even more valuable, even though it got more expensive because of the way that the game is changing. So I would expect to see some cost reductions for Grombrindle and Thorgrim, potentially for the base lord. I doubt it for Belegar. I doubt it for Angrim. Angrim is actually pretty decent, but he's just going to get weaker and weaker and weaker as these caster lords with all types of mounts, flying and foot and monstrous mounts become more prevalent. The Rune Lord, they might decide to make the Rune Lord 50 more gold. I could see that. I could even see them making the Rune Lord 150 more gold, really, if they're going to be serious about trying to balance out the lords. I hope not. I hope they keep tweaking things a little bit at a time. But if they did give us a Rune Lord worth 950 or 1,000 gold base, I would hope that they would reduce the base lord by quite a bit, down to 800 or something like that, or 900, And I really My guess is that we will see some increase in the Rune Lord, maybe 50 gold. The Lord staying where he is, Belegar Ironhammer staying where he is, Ungrim Iron Fist staying where he is, and some reductions in cost or major buffs to Thorgrim and Grombrindle. I would say they could easily both come down 100 gold. I mean, Grombrindle's base price 1450, and he's still not going to be better than the Rune Lord. Same with Thorgrim. He could be reduced by 100 gold down to 1500, I think it is. Yeah, from 1600 to 1500. He's still not going to be better than the Rune Lord, even if the Rune Lord is increased 50. But he'll be a little bit more competitive, and that's where I think CA has to keep going with this. And, you know, you see lords that people would love to use, like, you love to use more, like, but they're basic foot lords and they don't have mount options or magic. Like Grimgor Ironhide, you know, the only way to really make lords like that viable are to make them a lot less expensive, and or to make them a lot more powerful. And I did go over some ways to really make them more useful, and that's by giving foot lords abilities that are quite powerful that would make other factions lords come to you. But I don't know that that's going to happen. That's a pretty major change conceptually, and it would happen with all lords when they're on foot would have more actual interesting abilities, sort of like map-wide abilities, but I don't see that happening. Anyways, I would expect either no changes to the lords, maybe they don't touch the dwarf lords, and if they do, an increase to the Rune Lord cost, a reduction in Grombrindle and Thorgrim's cost is what I would expect. Now, the Thane, and Thorgrim always has this ability, High King, which is a really difficult ability to make work. I would love to see this ability changed and to make it more reliable, more useful, because against good players, and if they see you have High King, either they're going to goon you out and kill you so fast it's not going to matter, or they're just going to leave you right to the very end at above half health. And then this ability is just 156 gold purely wasted. So what I mean to say is, even if you can make this ability go off in campaign, it is not an ability that can be competitive, because your opponent has to sort of play into your plan and allow you to actually get this ability off. I would like the High King ability to be a competitive ability. You know, maybe it is a clickable, like Wa, where you can use your High King sort of like that and get all these stats map wide. I don't know. I think that would make Thorgrim much better. Anyways, I've talked about High King ever since the game released 3 years ago. I've been talking about High King and how much I dislike it conceptually. I love the idea of, I love the buffs and kind of it's interesting, but the way it's contingent on two things, even in campaign, it can be difficult to make it work. And Grombrindle, sure, make him 100 cheaper, make Thorgrim 100 cheaper, and I think you're going to see them a little bit more. But anyways, that's that. Now, they're putting some work into the Thane, and I hope they continue. Now, I made an improving Thane's video, and I do believe there should be 4 Thane variants. You know, sort of a axe and board, a two-handed hammer, a two-handed axe, and sort of a dual hammers or something like that. Or, you know, I think you could really, Thanes are everywhere in dwarf society, and they're as different as the lords. I would like to see some of that, and where you could get sort of armor-piercing variants, anti-large, anti-infantry, and really make the Thane something that's interesting. And you know, when I look at the philosophy or the thinking I used with the Master Engineer videos I did, especially the last one, looking at the abilities I think I would love to see it would be very reasonable to take 2 Thanes and into a battle for very good reasons. But anyways, the abilities, Foe Seeker's just fine. Deadly Onslaughts, I mean, to be better for something that had armor piercing to start with. And the ability here, though, Silverhorn of Vengeance, I pray. Now, they've changed it twice. They've moved it from a lord to a hero. And it was 36% charge bonus. Now it's plus 12. Please, please, I pray to the CA God, hear my prayer. By Valaya, by Grimnir, by Grungni, please change the Silverhorn of Vengeance to be something useful, or just delete it. get rid of it altogether so I don't have to look at it. But it would heal the hole in my dwarf heart if it was gone altogether. Anyways, the other abilities I like: Rune of Slowness, minus 18% speed. I think it's a decent ability. It's not powerful. It should be, I think it should be 80, not 160. But you know, just like Ironbeard's Ring, the Ironbeard's Ring should be 80, I think, and it is. But you know, the Thane may see some changes. I hope Silverhorn of Vengeance is made something else or completely eliminated, and the Rune of Slowness is reduced in cost. Nothing needed to do with the Runesmith. The Runesmith kit is fantastic. Hammer of Karak-Draws is awesome. Master Rune of Groth One-Eye. All their abilities are good in certain situations. Obviously, Rune of Wrath and Rune is super powerful. I could see them increasing the cost. I have talked about that before. I hope they don't, but you know, maybe I would like to see Forgefire be made a different version so that it be potentially could stack. So you have Forgefire here. It's the same Forgefire for your Runesmith. I'd like to see that to be different, so you could actually stack the effects somehow. But Runesmith is good where they are. You still see Runesmith. They're fantastic, and I don't see that changing. I love the Runesmith. Master Engineer. Now I have made again a video where I would love to see the items for the Master Engineer, the abilities for the Master Engineer changed very significantly, and obviously the Master Engineer having a gyrocopter mount I think would be fantastic and interesting. It was a fairly involved video where the Master Engineer would be given a choice of 6 different slugs with different abilities, with all the different effects, and then would have a number of abilities. I think I'd love to see the Master Engineer be made really interesting. You know, I think they have improved the Master Engineer over time. They've improved his accuracy. They've improved his range, his damage, you know, his ability to do some damage. The Master Engineer has been improving, but very, very slowly. I would love to, and this Fire Ring of Thori, I mean, it just does not belong on a Master Engineer. Prospector Spyglass, good, 18% accuracy. Fire Ring of Thori, definitely the wrong place to have this. I don't think any dwarf should have this. This is actually this kind of bothers me as a dwarf player, that this Fire Ring of Thori is a sort of a thing. But anyways, the entrenchment, you know, I talked about changing that, ballistics, and some of the other abilities in that video. If you want to see a video that's a lot more detail of where the Master Engineer changes should come, I would think that if there is any changes to the heroes, the Thane might have something done with Silverhorn of Vengeance, and hopefully have the Rune of Slowness made cheaper. And the Master Engineer, I would doubt they're going to touch the Runesmith unless they made his Rune of Wrath and Rune more expensive. Now, on to the strength of the Dowie lineup, which is the infantry. Dowie have fantastic infantry. But from all the testing we know, the miners, dwarf warriors, and longbeards with great weapons really underperform compared to other great weapon infantry. You see other great weapon infantry is always at or near the top, especially when we did our 400 gold and under. We did our 401 to 600 gold, 601 to 900, and 901 gold up. Armor piercing infantry, especially the anti-infantry variant as opposed to anti-large, they all end up very close to the top, and those are the pound for pound best units. Are most effective armor piercing infantry in the game are the Chaos Warriors with great weapons. Chosen with great weapons are really, really strong. You know, you look at Black Orcs, which are iconic, and you know, Bestigors are very solid. Even great swords are quite solid. They're in a pretty good place now, I think. And you look at the testing we did, and miners are just not there. Now, the blaster charges are good, but the miners' ability to fight are not. Dwarf warriors with great weapons, just not there. Longbeards with great weapons. I would say for a first pass, I would be happy to see a +2 melee attack to all of these. So these guys would go to 20 melee attack. The dwarf warriors with great weapons 24, and the longbeards 32. I think based on the analysis that I've done, it should be more. But I would love to see even any one of these get some sort of buff to their melee attack to sort of at least know that CA is seeing this. Now, there may be other reasons why these units have been left behind, as far as in comparison to other great weapon units, but I would love to see them be brought up. Now, they can be used in certain roles, and that is as in an anti-large role, and they can do pretty well in that role. But against other infantry and other armor-piercing infantry, they're just second class. And dwarf infantry has to be great, because dwarfs don't have magic, don't have monsters, don't have cavalry, don't have that sort of that mobility and the capability to do a lot of things. Very one-dimensional. But when you're one-dimensional and you need to be competitive, that one dimension must be outstanding. And dwarfs are all about the infantry, artillery, and so that back line. So, anyways, all the rest of the units I think are great. I hope we don't see any nerfs. We shouldn't, I don't think, but I've been wrong before on that. But I don't think there's any nerfs to be had anywhere, even with the Regiments of Renown. No nerfs to be had. Like I would actually argue the Grumbly Guard should get a bit of a buff, but on their ability, because now they're just not nearly as useful as they were. But anyways, infantry, those are the 4. +2 melee attack to all 4 units, I think is a good start. Wouldn't get us all the way there, but at least we would know that CA are looking at these units, because they really do underperform compared to their rivals in other factions. Now, missile infantry. Dawi missile infantry is outstanding across the board. They did give a +2 melee attack to the great weapon quarrelers last time. Makes them a little better. Happy day. You might see that same thing with a great weapon rangers. I mean, these are just units that are not used very much. It doesn't mean they're bad, but this lineup is so damn good. There is no unit in this entire lineup that someone else wouldn't enjoy having, any other faction. I mean, even though the Skolder Guard's not used, I'm guaranteed there's, ask the Vampire Counts if they'd like a ranged unit. They'd be like, sure, bring them our way. Trollhammer torpedoes, they have some niche value and they can be extremely good. Ulthar's Raiders can be amazing. Bugman's Rangers are awesome, even though they got a bit of a nerf. But I think they won't see another nerf. Thunders are fantastic. Iron Drakes are really, really good. Very niche, though. Rangers with great weapons are actually pretty solid, but they're so overshadowed. Same with Quarrelers with great weapons. And Quarrelers are really solid, but, really you see those Rangers because they have the stock. Could see some change in pricing, but I think the missile infantry for the Dawi is just fine all across the board. There's no need to change anything here, and I hope they, if they do make a change, it's a very small one. Now, as far as gyrocopters, I've had many videos on gyrocopters and the changes that I think need to take place. They are so vulnerable in the sky; they are not even worth taking, for the most part. I did my most recent video really to make these gyrocopters effective. They need to be impossible to stagger, number one, and they need to be. I think you make them impossible to stagger. So they can't just be picked away by goblins, of all things. You make them have an area of effect damage to represent their actual the damage they do with the blades, so that they could actually stand up and kill a group of Fellbats easily, which they should. A gyrocopter should be able to chew through Fellbats like they're not even there, but Fellbats will take down gyrocopters, no problem. No problem. A crappy unit of Fellbats without any leadership or anything at 350 will crush gyrocopters. So, really making and then making them unbreakable. So they should be unbreakable, essentially, just like a steam tank. A steam tank has less robust units on the inside of them than the Dawi would have. If you think anyone would be not afraid of much, it would be someone who pilots one of these things. Especially because they're wearing Dawi armor inside Dawi armor. So really, you make the gyrocopter unbreakable. Yeah, you make them so they do a small area of effect, only really 10 meters, 20 meters, and have to be in melee combat to do so. And you're getting them right to where they need to be, and you make them so they have no stagger, really, so that they don't get just knocked around, so you can be useful. They're still hard. I would love to see them. I'd love to see you be able to target their bombs just like you target artillery, you know, that type of thing as well. But anyways, gyrocopters, they can still be good in niche matchups, but in the matchups where they're bad, they're really bad because everything in the air dominates them so easily. And then finally, the artillery and war machines, there's nothing that needs to be changed here. They're all fantastic. I mean, you could make a case to reduce the price of the grudge thrower, like to maybe $650, because you don't see them that much. But really, I would hope we don't see any changes to the artillery and war machines. The Dowie artillery and war machines are all fantastic. They all have great, you know, in the right situation, they're all amazing. That's not the same with every unit in every faction. And you know, I just think the artillery and war machines for the dwarfs are just fine where they are. I would hate to see them change too much because they're all in a great place. Maybe you could say grudge thrower might be $650 just to get it out on the field a little bit more. You should see grudge throwers a little more, but that's about it. So really I think the Rune Lord, you know, either nothing's going to change or the Rune Lord will be made more expensive and maybe Grombrindle and Thorgrim will be reduced. We looked at, you know, the Runesmith won't change. Maybe the Thane will have his, hopefully, the Silverhorn of Vengeance will finally be made something. I mean, it sounds awesome. The Silverhorn of Vengeance, like this, I love the sound of that name. It sounds perfect. It's a great name. It should do something insanely cool. It is the Silverhorn of Vengeance, right? This should be something that's completely awesome. And then, yeah, a Master Engineer. So when we look at the units I would like to see addressed, you know, that's sort of would like to see addressed. These are the units I'd like to see addressed. Now, I could see Grombrindle and Thorgrim being reduced in price and get rid of that, or change, sorry, the High King ability to something really useful. But really, these are the units. Now, and there's, you know, what I'm calling for the Great Weapon Infantry is not really big, but they just need to start going in the right direction. Small change to Thane would go a long way. The big change I would like to see 4 different versions of Thanes. And I would love to see the Master Engineer go through a complete revamp, but I doubt that's going to happen. They're deep into developing Game 3 right now, so we'll see. We'll see how many changes come, and then really I'd like to see gyrocopters. I'd like to see something done with gyrocopters, and it's going to be more prevalent now that these Ripperdactyls can have bombs that, you know, have I think the armor sundering effect. Even though it's only 1 rock as opposed to 2 bombs that you get with your gyrocopters, that I think people are still going to try and make use of them, and it is really difficult to make use of them bombs. Anyways, I would love to hear from you. I love comments. I know I say it a lot. It's because I really do. I would love to hear from you guys what you hope to see for the Dowie in the upcoming change this weekend, and what you think will happen. Is it going to be, you know, you hope for A, B, and C, and you think nothing's going to happen. You hope for A, B, and C, and you think maybe potentially more than you want is going to happen. I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments as far as what you think should happen and what you think is most likely to happen for the dwarfs. And you let me know if you're going to be watching the tournament this weekend. I'm going to be watching it. So I think it starts at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. So hopefully it's on Twitch for sure, but hopefully it's also cast on YouTube so that I can watch it there and comment away. And if you are on YouTube tomorrow, say hello, and I'll you know, I don't see all the comments, but I will definitely be in there chirping up a storm from time to time. So anyways, can't wait to hear from you. Hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon.